Ladies and gentlemen, I'm back with a new episode of Explore and Engage with Anam. The Wisconsin gubernatorial race is going to be one of the most watched races in the country in 2026. I know that this race has nothing to do with the balance of power in the U.S. Senate or the U.S. House of Representatives, but this gubernatorial race will represent a battle of political ideologies. Wisconsin is a purple state. We know it. It's not blue. It's not entirely red. It is purple. It is a swing state. And anyone who claims that Wisconsin is a blue state, or anyone who claims that it is a red state, is not recognizing the reality. The reality is that Wisconsin is a swing state in every possible way. We had some major victories in Wisconsin over the last decade and a half. And when I say we, I mean the Republicans. I'm a Republican. The Republicans. We had some major victories in the state over the last decade and a half. We won gubernatorial races. We won Senate races, we won Attorney General races, we won state Supreme Court races. But then, we the Republicans have unfortunately also lost quite a bit. And I'm going to mention the same races again. We lost gubernatorial races, we lost Senate races, we lost Attorney General races, and we lost state Supreme Court races. That's right. We won, we lost, and yet we continue to be hopeful. My friends, why won't we be hopeful? We always have to be hopeful. I've always emphasized optimism, and I will continue to do so. We gotta be hopeful, we gotta be optimistic. For months, the people of Wisconsin, the people have been wondering if Governor Tony Evers is going to run for re-election. Tony Evers is the current Democrat governor. And is he going to run? Is he going to retire? So people were asking lots of questions over the last few months. Tony Evers is a senior individual, and even before becoming the governor of Wisconsin, he held a statewide office as the state superintendent of public instruction. So he's really a teachers union guy, okay? He's left-wing teachers union, politician. And when he ran for governor in 2018, Tony Evers defeated the incumbent governor at the time, who was Scott Walker. And I remember the election night. This is November 2018. I'm talking about election night. And the election night party was held in Waukesha County. And my mother and I, we were both there along with many of our conservative friends. It was a big election night party, and there was also a Senate race that night, the 2018 U.S. Senate election in Wisconsin. And I remember that night very, very well. Anyway, we waited all evening for a favorable outcome, not just in one race, but we waited for favorable outcomes in all races that night. And nope, it was a loss, a big loss. Tony Evers defeated Scott Walker, and we also lost the Attorney General race that night. We lost the U.S. Senate race of 2018 also. And it was not a great night for the Republicans. And that was the start of Tony Evers' journey as the governor-elect and then governor. And now, after all these years, Tony Evers has decided to not seek re-election. Now, this is a major turning point in Wisconsin politics. As of now, the Republicans have been, they've been thinking up until this point, and I'm talking about the point at which Tony Evers decided that he's not going to run, he made that announcement. Up until that point, the Republicans have been thinking about strategies to defeat Tony Evers in 2026. And of course, some assumed that he would seek re-election, and some thought that he would not. But now that we know that he's certainly retiring, there are many variables that have now been introduced into this gubernatorial race. Not only will there be a primary on the Republican side, there's also going to be a primary on the Democrat side. Right now, the Republicans do not know who their candidate is, and the Republicans also do not know who the Democrat nominee for governor might be. It's a very interesting situation that we have in the state of Wisconsin right now. There's no clear frontrunner anywhere. There's no clear frontrunner on the Democrat side. There's no clear frontrunner on the Republican side. Sarah Rodriguez, the Democrat lieutenant governor right now, she announced that she's running for governor. And I'm also hearing that Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley might run. These are some names that people are talking about on the Democrat side. And there are also two candidates who announced from the Republican side that they're running. And I believe, yes, there's also an independent candidate. I saw that. But once again, there's no clear frontrunner from either side, Democrat or Republican. And I can tell you one thing, my friends, from my own observation. There's a hunger among the voting population, a hunger for a trustworthy individual. People want a trustworthy individual. Someone you can look at and say, that is the person I can trust. That is someone I want to trust. I'm confident that that is the person who is not going to let me down. It is the trustworthiness that the voters of Wisconsin are looking for. Of course, candidates are going to be jumping in, and they will talk about their family. They'll talk about their work history, their work ethic, and they will highlight all the things that they think people would like to know about. And some candidates will highlight their success in business, and some candidates will highlight their uniformed service. And some will talk about their personal struggles and how they managed to overcome those barriers. And some will talk about empathy, and they will claim to have a kind heart. And some candidates will talk about their experience in government and so on and so forth. So we will hear a lot of answers to the question, why should I vote for you? All these candidates will be jumping in, and they'll try to answer that question. But is there anyone who is going to talk about trustworthiness? Because at the end of the day, that is what matters. A voter is going to make a decision based on, can I trust this candidate? And sometimes you develop a relationship of trust just by looking at someone. It happens. The human mind works in very fascinating ways. You can just look at someone and you may develop a relationship of trust. And you have a gut feeling, a voice in your ear tells you, hey, you can trust that person. And at that point, you don't think of anything else. And a candidate does not have to tell you, hey, trust me, you can count on me. As a voter, you make that determination. And sometimes you know that right away. You know the answer. Can you trust this person? You know the answer right away. It's that gut feeling. There's a reason why Donald Trump has the image that he has. People find him trustworthy. He's trustworthy. That's why people not only support him, but they also love him. Is Donald Trump a flawless person? No. He never claimed to be flawless. And, when he jumped into the race to run for president, when the American people heard him speak, they said to themselves, this is someone I can trust. Now that appeal was at the national level. Trump's impact was at the global level. People trust him, which is why he was able to make a comeback and win the 2024 election in such a massive way. But turn your attention towards Wisconsin. Do you see anyone out there who you can trust? This is still 2025, and you probably have not seen all the candidates yet. There will likely be more candidates jumping into the gubernatorial race later this year or maybe next year. But this is really the question that you have to ask yourself. Do you see anyone out there who you can trust? You ask yourself that question. You ask yourself, is there anyone, do I see anyone out there who I can trust? And there's no one who can answer that question for you. You have to come up with the answer. Trustworthiness. It's the most important thing. My friends, I would say that you don't really have to search for that answer. You will know the answer when it is time to know the answer. The answer will come to you. When the right person is in front of you, you will know, and you'll say, this is the person I can trust. And maybe that person is not a candidate. Maybe that person has not declared candidacy. But you will likely hear yourself say, hey, this person should run. This person should run. That's it. I see this person. This individual is not a declared candidate, but this is someone who I think I can trust. This is someone I would like to see elevated to the position of the governor of Wisconsin. This is someone who can take our state in the right direction. Trustworthiness. My friends, I think that political campaigns have become very materialistic, if you know what I'm talking about. I mean, elections require money. That's, the first thing sometimes that's the first thing that many people think of when they think of elections. Oh, it's going to require a lot of money. All right? There are people out there who have money. They don't have ideas. They don't have ideas. They don't have defined political beliefs. There are candidates out there who are very confused. They don't know where they stand on issues, but they want to run for office. And they prioritize money. They've got money in their pockets. They can hire the consultants. They can put ads on TV, even not knowing what they themselves believe politically. What policies do they support when it comes to healthcare, when it comes to transportation, when it comes to energy, when it comes to agriculture? But people prioritize money and they jump into the race, or they think of jumping into the race, and it's about resources. So, my friends, I understand that there's a huge physical and visual aspect when it comes to major statewide races, like, yard signs. Those are objects that are needed yard signs, physical objects, campaign literature. You need devices to make phone calls, to reach voters. You need money to place ads on TV. I mean, it's very, there's a huge financial aspect to this. And candidates want to present the best possible images of themselves in front of TV cameras, and that's fine. That's the reality of statewide races and elections. But what many people seem to have forgotten is the fact that an election also has a spiritual side. That's right. Spiritual side. Now you may be wondering, Tausif, what are you talking about? We're talking about election. We're talking about, how to win. We're talking about voter contacts and ballots, and we're talking about rallies and yard signs and literature. We're talking about the practical stuff, and here you are talking about spiritual side. What are you talking about? My friends, let me answer this. Let me answer this. The person you elect for a statewide office must be spiritually rich. Not just a person with a big campaign chest and an army of political advisors and consultants, but someone who is spiritually enlightened and is ready to lead and take the state forward towards light, towards a brighter day, towards a brighter and more prosperous future. Why are so many people frustrated with the political process? Because in many ways, it can be a destructive process. Of course, we elect people to help move us towards a better future, but the electoral process can be destructive in the way that the aggressive nature of campaigns can lead to scandals and personal attacks and verbal attacks, and the candidate may try to attack the opponent's reputation in an effort to move forward. And we have seen that. It happens very, very frequently. Campaigns have become very, very aggressive. The political landscape is full of verbal attacks, personal attacks, and scandals. Look at what the Democrats did to Donald Trump. They dragged him. The left-wing forces dragged Donald Trump into a courthouse in New York. And they threw all kinds of lawsuits at him and more. And the Democrats tried to destroy this man, Donald Trump. But fortunately, he won re-election. He won election again. And he is now our president. So going back to the spiritual aspect, an election is not just a search for a person, for a public office. But also, you look for someone who can understand the spiritual needs of the community and act accordingly. For example, when you look at the issue of abortion, look at this issue. There are other issues, but look at abortion. Yes, it's a legal issue, but it is also a spiritual issue. The question is, where do we stand spiritually as a society? Do we consider a life to be a life? Do we consider an unborn child to be a child? There are many other issues, but keep this very important thing in mind. An election has a spiritual side. It's not just all about money and yard signs and TV ads and campaign brochures. No. You have to find the person who is spiritually rich, not just rich in terms of money, but spiritually enlightened. So my friends, as we head towards 2026, we will witness intense competition on the Democrat side and on the Republican side, because those are the two big labels. And we might also see some independent candidates. But ask yourself, among the names mentioned, do you see someone you can trust? Is there someone you can trust whose name is not mentioned? Is there someone else out there, perhaps somebody who has not entered the ring yet? And does that person that you're thinking about, does that person have a spiritual side, a rich spiritual side? If there were no names on the ballot, okay, let's just for a moment assume that there are no names being mentioned on either side. And somebody asks you, name a person you want to see in the governor's office. Who would you name? It is certainly a person who you think is trustworthy, and hopefully a person who is spiritually rich. My friends, I wanted to just share some thoughts with you because the 2026 gubernatorial election in Wisconsin is going to be extremely important. Our future is at stake. And as I said, if you look at the past years, we have won statewide races, we meaning the Republicans, we have won statewide races, and we have lost statewide races. So there's no way to predict what the outcome of the 2026 gubernatorial election is going to be. There's a lot to think about, and it is always my goal to share with you my thoughts through this podcast, but to also provide you with an opportunity to share your thoughts with me. So you can go to my website if you want, and you can send me a message through my website. My website is tosifanam.net. If you want to send me an email, you can do so. My email address is tosif@tosifanam.net. You can also find me on social media. I'm very active on Facebook and on Instagram, and also on X, formerly known as Twitter. And I'm also on Truth Social. So you can connect with me on any one of these or all of these. And I really look forward to hearing from you. If you have questions, you can ask me, and I'll try to respond, perhaps in a future podcast episode. So, my friends, thank you so very much for continuing to listen to my podcast. And I will be back again very soon with a new episode of Explore and Engage with Anam. Thank you.